Hey guys, today I want to talk about the upside of the Philippines. Now, a lot of people, when they look to the Philippines, they say third world country, down. They say, government, down. They have all kinds of negative things that they pick out when the United States government and the United States is having the same problems that the Philippines has. Actually, the Philippines, I would say, in some ways, is a little bit more stable than the United States. Government-wise and financially. Financially over here for an expat, and I'm talking strictly about expats here, for expats to come over here, for us to live in an upscale home here, I'm talking about in a really good neighborhood, gated community, it's probably about 75% cheaper over here than it would be back in the U.S. In the U.S. and Massachusetts, for you to live in an upscale town, in an upscale neighborhood, it's going to cost you $4,000. Over here, $600 to $1,200, you could probably live in an upscale neighborhood. So if in a gated community, probably near some major malls or what have you, nice malls, and probably in a gated community where there's a pool, nice people, friendly neighbors, and quietness. Now, a lot of people associate the Philippines with roosters, loud noises, all types of things, all karaoke machines, we could say. But there are gated communities that have rules against that. And you can move into these places. And if a lot of people that come over here, a lot of people say, well, Steve, I'm only living on $1,200 to $1,500 a month or what have you. But there's a lot of expats that are not living on that amount. They're living on really much higher amounts. And a lot of people think that those people wouldn't go to the Philippines because they could live in the United States. Well, if they live in the United States, they're living a lot lower than they could actually live, because over here they could really move to some really high-end places over here. There are places over here that rent out for $2,000 or more in some places. Actually, Trump Towers here in the Philippines is actually fairly reasonable when you compare it to the United States. And I'm not telling people, I'd want to live in Trump Towers. I really probably would not. Probably wouldn't fit in there. But there are places such as that, in places in Makati that are really nice places, really upscale, nice furnishings. You can get totally furnished or not furnished or what have you. You can furnish the place yourself. And over here, you can, in some places, if you shop around enough, you can get fairly decent furniture, fairly reasonable, I might add. They have Asian antiques over here from China that are like 100 years old, 150 years old. You can get these beautiful bureaus or like lock boxes for your clothing and stuff like that are beautiful to have in your house and really bring out your house a lot more too. But there's also, here's another thing. A lot of people that move over here think, well, if I don't want to have to be searching around for my food and searching all these different places. If you know where to shop once you get here, you probably have to shop a little bit harder to find the things that you want. But a lot of things you can order through the mail, or if you live in these upscale neighborhoods and stuff, usually there's upscale supermarkets. We have All Day, we have S&R, Landers, places like that where you can get almost anything you can dream up. You can pretty much buy it in those places. And you can get upscale outdoor furniture, things like that. You can also get very good health care. There is health care over here. You can get high-end health care if you shop around and look for decent doctors. And actually, you're probably still going to save. You're probably still going to save 75% on health care. Now, this depends on where you go, what hospital you go to, what doctors you use. But sometimes I found doctors here that my doctor in particular is an excellent doctor. And I only pay, when I go in to see her, guess what I pay? It's about $6. About $6 US. And she'll spend 15 minutes or half an hour with me sometimes. Because we sit there, we talk, and we exchange thoughts on what we can do to battle the condition that's at hand at that moment. And she'll sit there and talk with me about it. And she takes care of things. She's looked up things for me, found out information for me. She's trying to find a medication for me right now. You would not get that in the United States. You would not get a doctor that would seek out a medication for you. Because back back home, doctors just don't do stuff like that. Nor do they try to recommend another doctor in a lot of cases. Some will, some won't. Depends on your doctor. But I will say this, that over here, overall, despite the poverty, despite the fact that it's a third world nation, I think the Philippines is a lot better. We're a lot better off over here as retirees. And I think we get more bang for our dollar over here. We can, if you want to travel, you can travel. You can travel all around here. It's reasonably cheap to travel around in the Philippines to other countries, to Japan, to Singapore, to Thailand, even to go to places like Australia or some of the South Pacific islands, Tahiti, Bali, places like that, even Guam. Ticket prices are fairly reasonable for those places. And it's just a hop, skip, and a jump, basically. A lot of people also worry about VA care. Well, we have a VA care. We have VA care here. We have a VA clinic here in the Philippines. It's most countries do not have that type of help. That's another great thing about living in the Philippines. There's a lot of ups versus the downsides here in the Philippines, but you have to really you have to work at them sometimes. One thing I know about here is that whenever we do something here, it's a little bit more work, but it's worth the work. And after a while, you come to just kind of embrace that. There's things that suck here. You kind of embrace the suck. You just say, overall, I'm doing way better here than I would be back home. I can buy these Suzuki vans. They're rebuilds, okay? And I was actually riding in one today with a friend. And we were riding around that Suzuki. And I was saying to myself, well, this is a rebuild. They rebuild it. They rebuild the whole thing, make it look like new. The motors tend to last a long time on those. Sometimes some people will rebuild them, some people will not. But they go for about $4,000 or $5,000, and it's like a brand spanking new vehicle. And the Filipinos are really, really good at doing what they do when it comes to doing that type of stuff. And you could, even new cars tend to be cheaper here than in the U.S., especially if they come from here. So you can get Toyotas and some vehicles you can get here cheaper than you can in the U.S. They have different types of vehicles too, and they're just as good as the cars in the U.S. These are the things that I'm talking about over here that are the pluses, and there's a lot of pluses over here. Now, if I go back to the United States, I'm going to be paying, probably between $8 to $14 for a Big Mac meal. Over here, guess what I'm paying? I'm probably paying about $4. So when you compare apples to oranges and apples to apples, overall we're doing better over here. You have to compare the right apples to the right apples, and then when you start pricing out an apple in the U.S. to an apple in the Philippines, you start saying, maybe the Philippines is the place to be, because prices in the U.S. are starting to reflect the $15 an hour minimum wage in some of the states. And that's what's killing the economy in the U.S. is these ideas that paying a McDonald's worker who can't get your order right $15, that's a big mistake. Because these people are most of these kids are just students or what have you. And, I remember working my first job at Burger King and stuff like that, some of these places, and I was hardly making anything. You're not making a ton of money, but you're getting by, and it helps pay for some, going out with your friends or maybe some of your school supplies or what have you. But to pay somebody $15 an hour, I think that's just going overboard, because it makes all those prices go up. And that's exactly what happened in the United States. It kind of killed the economy. And people don't want to blame that on the high prices. But that's the biggest thing that's raising your prices over there in the United States, whether you guys want to admit it or not. And some of it's the current administration and some of the other things that are going on too. There's a lot going on in the U.S. that's not going on over here. Yes, they have a minimum wage over here. Yes, they pay way less than what actually probably for what you guys in the United States are getting an hour over there. It takes 2 days for a person over here to earn that. But you know something? They're responsible with their money. And the rents are so cheap that, if you're making 550, 500 a month, guess what? You can survive off of it. Now, would I want to eat like them and live like them? Probably not. Probably not, because we're not used to that. We're used to having our steaks, our burgers, and going out to dinner. Americans are spoiled, okay? We're spoiled in a big way. We're spoiled in a very big way. Filipinos are not spoiled. They don't spoil themselves. They still try to dress nice. They still try to do things, and they find a way to do it. They're very smart in figuring out how to get things done. If it means going to a ukay store, which is like a secondhand store, and sometimes you get new clothes there too, by the way. They're from department stores. They closed out something and they get rid of it and they sell it in these huge bundles to the Philippines. And they get all this stuff and they put them in these ukay stores. Some of them still have the receipts on, the price tag on there. They still have the price tag on there. And you can go shopping at these places, and sometimes you can find American clothes fairly reasonable. If you shop these places, you can find a pair of brand new jeans. And this place is up in Subic too. There's a place up in Subic. One of the guys was just telling me recently that you can get all kinds of American clothing, Levi's and all that stuff. You can get it really, really cheap, as much as 80% off or something. And he says he bought 2 weeks worth of clothing for something like $200. Now, for me, that's a deal. That's a steal. So there are ways that we're way better off over here in so many different ways. And yes, the United States has a lot to offer. But there's a lot of things collapsing over there too. You have to wait a long time to see a doctor. Over here, I don't have to wait a long time to see a doctor. Yes, I have to wait in line to see him, but I'll probably see him that day. Okay, I'm okay with that. But if I go down to the local doctor down here, which I see all the time, the doctor I was talking about earlier, that doctor there, I can usually see that doctor within 15 minutes and get taken care of relatively quick. I've gone over to De La Salle University Hospital over here. I made appointments. Usually I see a doctor within 3 days. If you make an appointment, some doctors take appointments, some of them don't. You have to go in and sign this list in the morning. You get there early, you put your name on the list, and you got to sit there and you got to wait. It's part of living in the Philippines. Remember, you're going to give up things when you come here, but you're also going to gain things when you come over here. And some things are part of the culture over here. And you're going to say, man, I really hate this. I'm not going to do this. You got to learn to live with it. It's part of the culture. Some things really bother expats over here. And after 6 years of being here, I've kind of grown accustomed to some of the things that happen over here. Waiting in line. I hate waiting in line. It's one of the issues I have. I've kind of grown accustomed to that, or learning ways around it. They have a SM privilege card here. If you spend so much money at SM, you get a privilege card. And it means you get to go to the front of the line. Now, do I use that privilege all the time? It's kind of like white privilege, I guess you could call it, but it's not. Because Filipinos use it too. If I see 3 or 4 people in the line, I won't use it. If I see 30 people in line and it's Christmas, I'll walk up to the front and use my card because I spent a lot of money there. I feel I deserve to get something for that, and they give it to you in the form of that privilege card. Now, some people might say that that's rude or it's obnoxious to do that. No, it's a store. It's the store's way of paying you back for spending so much money there at that store. I shop at SM quite a lot. I buy most of my goods there, both at the supermarket, and you can use it at other stores also. And when you spend so much money there, you get that privilege card. And you also earn points on that card too. It's just their way of saying thank you to you. And those are some of the great things that we have over here that you guys don't have in the United States. So think about that when you're weighing out everything about coming to the Philippines. And not just that, think of the women over here. The women over here are so much nicer, kinder. Granted, you have to search through them to find the perfect woman. And a lot of them have issues over here too, just like American women have issues. You're just trading those issues for different issues over here. Are the women over here worth coming over here for? I think so, if you find the right one. Don't think that because you talk to some girl for 3 months or 6 months or a year online, that she's going to be the same girl when you land here at the airport. Make sure you date her for a while over here, like at least 3 to 6 months before you make a decision to put a ring on some girl's finger. Trust me on that one. I've seen so many people mess up because the girl that they were talking to online was not the same girl that they married later on, because of the fact that the girl was putting on a big show. Be careful in situations like that. Is it worth it over here? Yes, it is. But be careful. God bless, guys. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's show.